Hi everyone. Today Salesforce Lightning Day 21. So let's see what are we going to learn today. So we'll quickly go through the previous session overview, and then we'll talk about the component or event overall, and then we'll talk about the use case. Another use case, passing the attribute values from the another component to the different component in the same hierarchy. Then we'll talk about the assignment. Then we will see how we are going to use the component event in real-time scenario. And also we'll talk about the data table. So in the Aura, we have a data table. So we'll talk about that. And we'll see the application event and the conclusion, homework, and today's interview questions. So quickly, what did we learn in the last session?
$A util methods,
Handle the style,
component event, how to fire a component event.
types of events, component event, application event, and default events.
Right. So the last session, at the end, we were discussing about the component event. So in order to achieve the component event, what are the steps that we have to follow?
Create an event, register the event, fire the event, handle the event.
Right. So the first thing is we have seen is how to create a lightning event and how to register an event, how to fire an event, and how to handle an event. So these are 4 steps which we have seen. In order to create a lightning event, whenever we create a lightning event, the tag which is automatically comes with Aura :event. Type, you have to specify the component because we are implementing the component event. Everything is in capital and there is an end tag of the Aura event. In order to register the event, so we have to use Aura :register event, and the name is another attribute in the register event. Name equal to any name you can give here. Type equal to, you have to specify the lightning event name. And then we have to fire an event. First, we need to get the what are the event details are there. We need to get that event, and in order to fire that, we have to use event.fire. And in another parent component, if you want to handle, we have to use the Aura handler name equal to the name here. It should be same as the whatever the register name is there. That's the same name. And the event equal to, we have to use the lightning event name and action, what are the method that we wanted to call. So these are the 4 steps. And yesterday, very basic component we have seen how to create a basic component and how to fire the component event, right? So we have seen that. Now today we will see one of the use case. Let's assume that implement a lightning component to pass a input message from the child component to the parent component, and parent component should display the message. So that means in the child component, I have an input field. So in the child component, I have an input field. So user is entering some data here and clicking on the submit. When it is clicked on the submit, there is a parent component. Parent component should take the details, whatever the user has entered, it should be passed to parent component. It should be passed to parent component, and parent component should reflect this. So this is the child component and this is input text. Assume that this is I1 and this is submit button. So in order to implement this, we need to create 2 components. One is a parent component, another one is a child component. And then we have to create a event. We have to create lightning event. And then in the child component, we have to register an event and handle the event in the parent component. So let's go ahead and see that. So I'll be doing it into the Visual Studio. So let's clear up. Now this is connected to my Salesforce org. In order to create a lightning event, Control-Shift-P, Control-Shift-P. If it is a Mac, Command-Shift-P, SFDX : Here you have to say Aura, create a Aura event. Create a Aura event. Let's suppose I'm creating LE underscore. Let's take a employee name, EMP name, LE underscore EMP name. And where this event is going to be created, it is going to be created in Aura. Aura folder, it is going to be created. So within this Aura folder, it created the .evt and metadata file. It created the .evt and metadata file. There is nothing in the metadata here. It is only specifies the what is the API version and what is the description of this. So in this metadata, it is going to tell what is the Aura definition bundle, where is this XML and what is the API version and what is the description. Now, here by default, it will give the application, right? But we are implementing the component event. Component event. Let me remove here. So I'll have an end of this. Now, Aura event. So what I'm going to do is from the child component, I have to capture certain information. That means within the Aura event, within the Lightning event, I need to create an attribute in order to hold the data. In order to hold the data. So let's suppose I'm creating a attribute name equal to, let's say, employee name. Employee name, and then type equal to, it's a string. Now, my event is done. So what is my event name? Let me store this, right click, rename, copy this, and let me this is my event name. Now the next step is, if I have to register or if I have to file this event, the first thing is that I need to create a child component. So what I'll do is I'll create a child component. Now I'll push this component. What are the event that we have created? I'm pushing this to the deploy source to org. Perfect, it is deployed. Just to cross verify whether it is refresh. File, open resource, LE underscore employee name. Perfect. So it is deployed to the my org. Now what I'll do is we have to create a child component now. Control Shift P, SFTX colon. Now I wanted to create a Aura component. Aura component. So create Aura component, and my component name is, let's say, LC underscore child component EMP name. This is my child component name. Yes, Aura folder. Now within the Aura folder, it created the complete bundle. Now let me save my child component name. Perfect. So this is my child component name. Now what I need here is I need a one input text input field where the user will be entering the input, and I need a button. I need a button. So lightning card. In the lightning card, let's say title equal to child component. Child component. Now within the child component, within the lightning card, let me put some text here. This is child component. Now I need a lightning input. I need a lightning input. For the lightning input, attributes are label, enter employee name, enter employee name, and then value.
Value.
We have to store the value in
Attribute.
attribute. So for that, I need to create an attribute. So let's go ahead and create an attribute, aura colon attribute name equal to employee name, e-name, and type is a string. What type of data we are going to store there?
String.
String. So I'll use this attribute here, v dot employee name. Now let's close this input. Now another one which I need is lightning button. Lightning colon button. For button, what are the attributes? Table. Submit, let's say it's a submit. And on click. So for on click, we are going to call the method in the controller c dot handle submit. Perfect. So this is my component. Okay. So this is lightning card I have created, input button I have created. Perfect. Now on the handle submit, what I need is I need to fire an event. Before that, I need to register an event. So here I'm going to register an event. Aura column register event name equal to, let's say that en, and type equal to our lightning event component, lightning event name. What is that? LE_EMP name. LE_EMP name. Okay. So this is registering is done. The second step of the registering is done. Now, the third step, I need to fire it. I need to fire an event. Now copy this. Copy this, handle submit. Let's go to the JavaScript controller. Now let's take this. Now here I need to fire it. So before firing it, let's take the value of this. Whatever the user has entered the value, let's capture that. How can I get the value, whatever the user has entered? What are the
Component dot get.
Component dot get where
component dot get v dot
component
attribute name.
name.
Now let me store this into one value where let's save this into the EMP name. Okay, so I'm saving into the EMP name. Now I have the value, whatever the user has entered. So here I'm capturing the data that is entered by the user. Now this is done. Now the next thing is that whatever my event is there, my event name is en. So I need to get that where EVT equal to component dot
Get
event. Now I'm going to get the event. Now once I have the event, before what we did, we just fired it, right? Event fire. But right now, before firing the event, whatever the user has entered the value here, I need to pass that value to here. I need to pass that value to here, right? So it is, let me take this. So this is EM name, and the value which is the attribute which is there here, EMP name. Now I need to pass the whatever the end user has entered here. I need to pass that. So in order to set that, that means I'm going to set the value to this attribute, the attribute which is present in the EVT lightning event. I need to set a value to EMP. So in order to set the value that is there in the event, lightning event, the first thing I need to use is EVT dot. We have to use the set params. We have to use the set params. So what I'm doing here, I'm setting the value to the lightning event attribute. So what is the lightning event attribute name? EMP name. EMP name. And what is the value that user entered? This one, EM name. That's it. Here, setting the assigning user entered value to the lightning event attribute. I'm assigning the value to the lightning event attribute. Now, next one is I need to fire it. Perfect. The third step is done. The third step is completed. Now let's save this. Perfect. So my component is done. My child component is completed. Now I need to handle the event. In order to handle the event, I have to create a parent component. Now let me push this to the org, deploy source to the org. Something is wrong, no component. Attribute found. LCC, EMP, name, CMP, no
Swapna,
component.
spelling mistake.
Spelling of it.
Spelling mistake. Attribute.
Attribute spelling. Okay. So if you have any issues in the component, it will not push. And you will see here the error, whatever is coming. Now let me right click. Deploy source to org. Now it is deployed. Perfect. Now we are done with the child component. Now the next step is I need to handle. In order to handle, I have to create a parent component. I have to create parent component. So let's go ahead and create a parent component. Control Shift P, SFDX, create Aura component. Now let's use the same name. So what I need is, instead of C, I'm going to say here parent. So I'll use the same name. Control Shift P, create Aura component. Let's enter the value. Aura folder. Perfect. So parent component is created. Parent component is created. In the parent component, I just need a handler. I don't need anything, but just to make user interface to understand, okay, this is the parent, this is the child. I'm going to create a one card. Within that, I'll just paste a message. I'll just use one message there, so that we'll have a differentiation between the parent and child. So title equal to parent component. Okay. Within this, I'll just say that this is parent component. That's all. Now this is my parent component. Now, next step is I need to handle it. Aura colon handler name equal to, what is the name that we have to give here? Whatever the register event name is there, same name we have to specify here in the handler. Event equal to C colon. This is my lightning event name. C colon. Lightning event name. Then action equal to curly braces exclamation. I need to implement a method in JavaScript. So handle event. Now let's close this. Perfect. So the component is done. Now I have to go to the controller. Now let's go to the controller. In the controller, my method name is handle event, or a function name is handle event. Now here, what we need to get the information from the event. Whatever this event is captured from the child. In the handler, I need to get that value. So in order to get that value, so what I'll use event dot. Event dot, we use get param. And what is the name of that employee name? EMP name. I'm getting the value from the lightning event and store that into one variable. Let's say name equal to, I'm storing into the one variable. So just to show that whether it is coming or not, so I'll put a alert. So I'll say that this is parent component showing the child attribute value. So let's say that I'm going to print that value here, which is a name. Done. Now this parent component is also done. Deploy source to org. Perfectly done. Now I have created event and registered and fired from the child component, handled from the parent component. So all the steps are done. Now what I'll do is I'm going to include this into the application. Now let's check whether it is been transferred here or not. So let me refresh in the developer console. So what are my parent component is there? I'll go here. I'll check open resource, parent component. Perfect. So let me include that. C column. What are the parent component is there? Let's click on save and click on preview. Okay. So what is the problem here? Why it is not showing the child component?
We didn't
We
add
did not mention the child component, the
child
parent
component.
component. C colon
It's
child
not
component.
added the child component. The relation is not yet implemented. We just said handler E, that's it. But I need to include the child component. So C column, child component name. Deploy this to source. Deploy source to org. Perfect. Now let's refresh. Now I have a parent component and the child component. In the child component, if I specify the name, if I specify here, Shailaja, okay, I'll click on submit. Now what I'm doing here right now I'm entering the data in the child component. I'm entering the data in child component. As soon as I click on a submit button, parent is going to reflect and it is going to show an alert message here. Reflect and it is going to show an alert message. This is parent component, show the child attribute value is Shailaja. Perfect. So this is how we will be passing the value from one component to another component within the family. When I say within the family, within the hierarchy. If it is having a within the hierarchy, you can pass the information from the child to parent. Now we are passing the data from child to parent. And also it can pass to parent, and if there is any grandparent, or even on the application also you can fire. Even on the application also you can fire. So how can you fire on the application? So let's go there. Let's go to the developer console. Now this is my application, right? This is my application. Now within the application, I can implement same logic in order to handle. In order to handle, I can implement the same logic. So let's say that, so this is the parent component. So I'll copy this handler and let me go to the parent. Now within the parent, I'll say that this is the handler. So this is handle app event. Control S. We have a controller here, right? So in the controller also, I can write the same logic which I have written in the parent. So in application controller, I'll say that this is application controller, application shows the child attribute, control save. Now let's refresh. So let's suppose if I say here, right, if I say Tejo Kumar, right? So employee name is Tejo Kumar. I'm hitting on submit. First it is hitting the parent and then it is hitting the application. It is going from the bottom to top. First it is showing the parent and then it is showing the application. Similarly, if you have a grandparent, grandparent also, what will happen? First it will show the parent, then grandparent, grandparent, then application. So it goes into the upper direction. Any questions? Okay. So let's go back to the another use case. Implement a lightning component to increment the number on parent component on click on the button in the child component. That means whenever the event is fired, there is an event that is fired here. So whenever the event is fired on the parent component, we should increment a number. So first it shows 1, next it shows 2, next it shows 3. Next, how many ever, like if the child component is hitting the event like 4 times, then it should show the event is 4. If it is hitting for the 5th time, then it should show in the parent component 5th. If it is hitting the event at the 6th time, then it should show 6th. So incrementing the number. So how we are going to do? Same, we have to create 2 components and 1 event. And we have to register the event in the child component, handle the event in the parent component. Okay. How you will be implementing this increment? How you will be incrementing this?
On click, we have to use addition operation.
On click, we have to use the addition operation. Okay.
+1.
Right. So will you guys able to do this? Okay, so let me take this. Here. Okay, let's go to the Visual Studio. Close all of them. Close. Now the first thing what I need to create here in order to implement that.
Aura event.
Aura event.
Aura event, I have to create it. So let's say that LE underscore increment number. Hit enter, Aura folder. So let me save that. Now, what is the next step which I need to do here? What is the change that I need to make it?
Application to come.
Component type.
Type should be component.
Component.
Type application to component. Declare one
Attribute. Attribute name equal to
Name equal.
this time. Let's take a message. And then type equal to, let's say, string. Perfect. So lightning event is completed. Deploy this to deploy source to org. No, what is the next one which I need to create?
Parent component.
Child component.
Child or parent?
Child first letter. Child component.
Create Aura component. C underscore. Okay, this is a child component. In the child component, I'll just write some text here. Lightning colon card. Title equal to this is child component. Now I'll just print some message here. This is child component. Okay. Now I need a button here. Lightning colon button. Let's say label. Increment, let's say add. Addition. And then on click. On click of this, let's call C dot handle add end this. Let's say done. Now also I need to register here.
Aura register.
Aura colon register event. Name equal to, let's say, CMP event. Type equal to C colon
Increment event, increment number.
increment number. Now, let's close this. Done with the component. Now the next step is I need to go to the controller. Copy this. Go to the controller. And let's implement the controller. Now, first thing is I need to get the event. So how many steps I have to do here? First, I need to get the event details. Okay, then set the attribute. Set the lightning event attribute. And the next one is a fire. For the event. Okay. So first one is, let's get the event. See, event component dot get event. Let's say, what is the event name? CMP event. Now, next one is I need to set the attribute. So C event dot set params. Now, within this curly braces, what is the attribute that I have here? Message. Let's pass some hard-coded value here. Let's say that a component is fired from child. Okay, now next thing is this, I need to fire it. Done. My child component is completed. Now let's go ahead and deploy this child component. Right click, deploy source to org. Okay. So let me copy this, right click. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create a, what is the next step? We are done with the event, we are done with the child. What is the next one? You guys able to hear me?
Parent component.
Parent component, Control Shift P. So parent component, Aura. In the parent component, what we need here? A number should be incremented, right? Let me implement the lightning card. Title equal to parent component. Within the parent component, let me print. I need an input, right? There should be a value should be there because I need to increment the number. So in order to increment the number, I need an attribute here, Aura colon attribute. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Swapna.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll take some attribute. Let's say number. Increment.
Swapna, can we implement increment in child component? Why don't we pass to parent component?
Because the scenario which I have taken is when the event is fired in the child component, then in the parent component number should be incremented.
Okay, Swapna. I think my understanding was different. Thank you.
So I number, so let's take a type equal to integer. And then let's take a default value. Zero. Perfect. Now that is done. Now whatever the message that is coming from here, let's place that here, okay? So whatever the message that we are receiving from the event, whatever the message that we are receiving from the event, I wanted to display on component. So in order to display that, I'll be creating another attribute. Let's say name equal to message from event and type equal to string. And this message, I'm going to print it into the card. Curly braces v dot message. So just to add, I'll just add a paragraph surrounding. Perfect. And then also I'll print the number of events. So the number is, whatever the number is there, the increment number. I'll be printing that number here. V dot number. Let me place this also in the paragraph. Perfect. Now in the parent component, I have a message I'm showing here. So message that is coming from the event. So let me paste something here, message from event and number of events. So now, next step is I need to have a handler here in order to handle the event. Aura colon handler name equal to, what should be the name of this? CMP event. And then event equal to C colon increment number. So which is a lightning event name. Next one is a action equal to curly braces exclamation C dot handle event. Perfect. I'm done with the parent component. Next, I'll move to the controller. And let me copy that method name here. Now, first step, what I'll do is I'll get the message from lightning event. Then next one is I'll set the message. I'll set lightning event message to lightning component message attribute. So I need to set the lightning component attribute. I'll set the lightning component attribute to lightning event message. That's it. And next step is I need to increment the number. Increment the number. And once I increment it, final number, whatever is there, I need to set that.
Put
Set
into the variable.
number to lightning attribute. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Perfect. So for the step 1, I need to get that. So var message equal to event dot
Get you.
get param, and my attribute name is message. Perfect. In step 2, I need to set component dot set. What is my attribute name here? Message from event, comma, message. I have set the attribute. Now next step 3 is I need to increment it. So in order to increment, component dot first get the v dot I number, get this value. So this is stored as a string. Now I need to convert that string to integer. In order to convert that string to integer, what is the command that I need to use?
Parseint.
Parse int. So get that number and then add the value. So 1 increment, and finally set this into one variable. Final number. Now this final number, set it into the component dot set
Final number with v dot I number comma final number.
Perfect. Any questions in this? Any questions? Anybody has any questions? Now let's push this. Lightning parent increment, right click, deploy source to org. Okay, it's deployed. Let me cross check this.
Ma'am, in parent component, child is missing, I think so.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not able-
default value of attribute also we have to remove. Message from.
Yeah. So here child component name is LE_C_ increment. Let's save this, right click, deploy this to source org.
We didn't close this tag. Child component.
Okay, so deploy this source to org. Fine. So this is pushed to the my org. Now let's go ahead and check that. File, open resource, parent. Yeah, it is there. And this is my component, handler, child component. Yeah. So now I'll include this into the application. Now let's click on preview. Okay, so let me comment on the previous one.
Ma'am, we have both child component.
Only child component. Why it is not displaying the parent component?
In application, we have both a
Child
child component.
component. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. So message from event is for now it is blank. Number of events is 0. Now if I click on this, a component is fired from the child and it is 1. If I click on again, it is going to increment. So how many ever times if I click on the button in the child component, the number gets increased here. The number gets increased. So I can know that how many times the event is fired. So far 30 times the event is fired. 30 times the event is fired. So in real time, in case if you wanted to check like whether the event is firing it or not. So this is the easiest way to know that whether it is firing or not. So as soon as I click on this, it is incrementing. So I can know that, okay, as soon as I click on this, the event is fired and the number is here. So we can know that 37 times the event has been fired. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's move on. Homework. Implement a Lightning component to pass a input message from child component to parent component, and parent component should reflect and display the message on UI. So that means a message should be shown on the parent component. So create two components, parent component, child component, create an event and register the event in child component, then handle the event in parent component. Any questions? Okay. So next one, homework 2, implement a Lightning component to increment the even number. It's not event, it's an even number. So even number is nothing but first it should, if you click on the button in the child component for the first time, then it should show the number 2. Next time when you click on this, it should show the number. It should show the next number is 4. If you click on again the button in the child component, next number should be 6. So all the even numbers it should show. 2 and first time. And this is for the first time. If it is a second time, it should show the 4. If it is a third time, it should show the 6. If it is a fourth time, it should show the 8 number. So all the even numbers should be displayed. All the even numbers should be displayed. So same, you need to create a parent component, child component, event, and then register, fire, and handle it. Okay. Now coming back to the real-time scenario, how we are going to use the component event in the real-time scenario. So assume that I have an application. I have an application. Within this application, I'm calling the parent component. Calling the parent component. In this parent component, we have a child component. We have a child component. And within this child component, there are certain fields, input, name, phone number, and rating. Name, phone number, rating, and there is a save and clear button. Okay, there is a save and clear button. Now this is the child component, which is calling from the parent. And as well as we have within the parent component, a table has been implemented. Within the parent component, a table has been implemented. What is this table is basically whenever the user enter any data here, what will happen as soon as I click on a save button? As soon as I click on a save button on the child component, it should go to the parent component and display those records here. Right? So first name should be here. Whatever the first is there, it should display the phone number, rating. Now, if I enter another value here and click on a save, then it should create another row. It should create another row and it should display the what are the values are entered. So every time when I enter the details and click on save, every time it should add the new row. It's keep on adding the new row. So this table is within the parent component. Within the parent component. That means if I click on a save button, if I click on a save button, where is this? Just hold on. Okay, so if I click on a save button, it should, an event should be called. An event is called. And this event, once the event is fired, from the event, it should get the values and it should store here. So basically, I have a table here. In the table, now here I have an event. Now, as soon as I click on a save, it should go to the event. Child component should call the event. From this event, come back to the parent component and display the rows here. Display the rows. Whatever the rows are there here, based on how many times you click on a save button, it should display the data. So this is how we use it in the real time. This is what we use in the real time. Now let's assume that this data, whatever you are talking about this data, it's related to the account object. It's related to the account object. So in real time, we use a account fields here. We use account name, account phone number, account rating, and we click on a save button. As soon as I click on a save button, it should call the event and come back to the parent. In the parent, whatever the table is there, this table should show the account name, account phone number, account rating. We are talking about here S object. I'm not taking any other type here, string or anything. I'm talking about S object. Could be a standard object or could be a custom object. Now we have these fields, okay? Now whatever the user has entered, it should display here. Is the requirement clear? Any questions on the requirement? Okay. So in order to implement this, what we have to do? Yes, what we have to do in order to implement?
Aura event.
We need to create a Aura event. Okay.
Child component.
Create a child component. In child component,
We have to create inputs and buttons.
input fields, 3 input fields. And then let's take out
2
one
buttons.
button. save button. Okay. Now, third one,
Parent component.
in the parent component, what we need to implement?
Tab.
We have to call the child component. The next one is table we have to implement, right? The table which we have to implement.
Clear button one in child component.
Clear, which is the same. Okay, so okay, let me take the clear also. But I'll use the clear also in the save only. So what I'll do is, as soon as user enter here data, once I click on a save button, it should show the data here and it should clear out the data from these fields. It should clear out the data from these fields. Now, in order to implement a table, what we need to use it here? In order to implement a table, what do we need to use it? We have already discussed.
Layout item.
Data table. What else we have discussed? Data table and
Page block table.
page block table is in a Visualforce.
Visual Force. Layout item in layout.
Did we discuss the HTML table? Using the HTML table in the Aura component. So where you have to use the table, header, rows, right? So we have already discussed that. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the data table. Instead of a HTML table, I'm going to use the Lightning table. So we have a Lightning data table. I'm going to use this Lightning data table in order to implement the table. So first what I'll do is I'll implement the parent component and then I'll implement the table. Now, in order to implement this data table, let's understand what is the data table and what are the mandatory information that attributes that we have. So let's go ahead and understand. Let's see that. So data table. So in order to implement that real-time scenario, we need to understand the data table first. So data table is basically this component displays the data in the tabular format, which is the rows and columns, similar like a HTML table. So what is the HTML table that we have discussed? We have discussed the table, right? Within the table, we have header,
Heading. Rows.
right?
Column.
And this is ending here, header is ending here. Then we'll have a body. And then we'll have a body. So within this, we'll have again rows and columns, rows. rows and cells, everything will be there. So this is normal HTML commands. Similarly, we have in the Lightning, which is called data table. Lightning data table. So Lightning data table is nothing but which displays the data in the form of rows and columns, which is a tabular format. So what is the different from this table? So what is the data table that has a additional information which suits it for the Salesforce? So basically, whenever we use the Lightning data table, it has a certain features. The features are it displaying and formatting of a column with the appropriate data type. So whatever the formatting and the data type is there. So for example, right now we have a table here. So we have a table. So inside this table, right? So we have each column and we know that in this column, what type of data should be stored. In this column, what type of data should be stored. So this everything can be Lightning data table can handle it. So if I say here, date of birth, that means this column should take care of storing only the date of birth, date related variables. It cannot store the other thing. So which data table is going to take care of it. And also it has a inline editing for some data types. Similar like we have a Salesforce inline editing. So inline editing is nothing but, so when you go to the Salesforce and if you go, let's open the sales application. Okay, so let's open the sales. So in sales application, if I go to the account or any other object, and if I open a record, right? Or here also I can show you on the list. So in the list, you see here pencil icon. Wherever you see this pencil icon, that means this is the inline editing. That means without clicking on an edit button, you can edit this particular field and you can update it. You can edit and you can update that. So that means wherever you see the pencil icon, that means this is inline editing. And using the Lightning data table, it is possible for few data types. And header level action sorting, header level action is nothing but sorting the column by ascending and descending. So similar like this. So we have if you want in the ascending format, right? So you can click on this ascending format or a descending format, whatever the format you want. So this also can be done using the Lightning data table. We can implement automatically. This is an inbuilt. So automatically when you use the Lightning data table component, the sorting, ascending order, descending order automatically comes. And next, row level action. Row level action is nothing but in the each row. So you have here checkboxes, each row, and you can perform certain information like clicking on this, you can update, edit, delete, change owner, right? You can modify it or you can uncheck or check. These things can be possible using the Lightning data table. Using the Lightning data table and resizing the columns. Resizing the columns is nothing but if you wanted to increase this column or if you wanted to decrease this column, which is possible with the Lightning data table. Which is possible with the Lightning data table. Selecting of a rows, you can select the rows. And text wrapping and clipping, that is nothing but, so when you click on this arrow mark, you have something called as a wrapper text. Wrapper text is nothing but what? So let's assume that I'm reducing this. Here you see 3 dots are displaying here, right? That means it has some text after this. There is a long text which is there. So for example, if I say wrapper text, what will happen? What are the dots are there, which will be, basically it is going to show complete text into there. So if I say that instead of a wrapping, if I say clip text, that means it will show whatever it is going to fit in that particular column, it will show the text, and rest of the text will be dot, 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 dot. And in case if you do not want this dot, dot, dot should be displayed, if you want a complete text to be displayed, then use wrap text. So when you use the wrap text, it is going to display the complete text there. So which is possible using the Lightning data table. And row numbering, column, you can put the column numbers in the row. And everything is possible. So if I have to say, when you implement a Lightning data table, you will see exactly similar to this. Whatever you can see here, exactly this you can see by using the Lightning data table. So when you implement a Lightning data table, you will see the output or the format of the Lightning data table on the user interface. It's similar to this. Similar to that. Now, in order to implement a Lightning data table, let's see what are the attributes that are required. So first of all, syntax for the Lightning data table. So it starts with Lightning : data table. Inside the Lightning : data table, we have a certain attributes which is mandatory. One is a key field. Key field is a mandatory. It's similar like a ID. You can give here ID. So key field is basically some string you are giving there. And the data is another attribute. So what is the information that is going to store in the data attribute is, it is going to store the array of data to be displayed, because data table should contain the existing data as well as what are the new data that is coming. That means it is an array. It is an array. In our case, whatever the scenario that we have seen, in our case, it is an array because we are keep on adding the records. So when we keep on adding the records, it should add here. The first one should be added here. And the second one should not override this first one. It should display in the second row. That means I should be able to see the data in the first row as well as the second row. So if anything comes, it should go in the next row. So that means here the data is holding a collection of rows. The data is holding a collection of rows, multiple rows values it is holding. Columns. Columns is basically what is the header value that you wanted to display. Now in this case, I wanted to display here header value. The first one is a name and the second one is a phone number. And then I have a rating. And then I have an email, right? So these are the field, the column name should be displayed. These are the column names should be displayed. In order to display these columns, we have a separate attribute called columns. So these are mandatory. Key field is mandatory. Data, how the data should be displayed, that is mandatory. What is the data to be displayed here, which is taken from data attribute. What is the header names is taken by column attribute. So this column attribute, so basically it is an array of a column object. It contains the columns contains the array of all the fields, whatever the fields or what are the column that you wanted to display. It's basically array of the columns. And the required fields in order to implement a columns, where you will be implementing the columns. Columns we have to implement in the JavaScript. This Lightning : data table, you will be writing in the component. Right? But this column is the attribute, but equal to, you will be giving some value here, right? Curly braces, exclamation, v dot, some column name you will be giving, right? So this column, whatever you are giving here, the variable, this has to build in JavaScript. Controller. How you will be building in the JavaScript controller? We have to use this format. So the mandatory is label, field name, type. The mandatory is label, field name, and type. So these three keywords are needed. Label is what is the label that you wanted to show on the user interface, or what is the label that you wanted to show here? What is the label that you wanted to show on the table? Field name is nothing but API name. API name of the field. For example, if you are taking the account rating. So for the account rating, what is the API name? API name is rating. Let's take a account active. So we have something called account active. So for the account active, what is the field label, field API name? It's a active __ C. This is the API name. So this API name we have to specify in the field name colon. What are the API name is there? That API name we have to specify here. Type, what type of data is going to be stored in this column? What type of data should be stored in this column? By default, type is going to take it as a text, but if you have a different thing like a date and Boolean, if you have that, so you have to specify type equal type colon Boolean. Type colon Boolean you have to specify. Any questions here? Lightning colon data table. Key field is the attribute. Data is another attribute. Columns is another attribute. So these three attributes are mandatory for in order to implement the Lightning data table. There are other attributes also. You can find it by going to this Lightning component library. In the component library, when you go there, so if you go to the specification, you can see there are many other also there, like a default value, errors, hide checkbox column. In case if you wanted to hide the checkbox column is loading, key field is the mandatory. This has to be there. And this has to be always unique. So these are the different attributes. So based on whatever is need is there, you can get those attributes. But ideally, most of the times we will use only these three attributes: key field, data, column. Key field, data, and column. Now, any questions on the data table? Okay, so let's move on. So before going for the homework, we need to implement the real-time scenario. The real-time scenario is this one. We need to implement this. Now, in order to implement this, let's go to the Visual Studio. Close all. Let's minimize everything here. Perfect. Clear this. Okay. Now the first thing I need to create a Lightning event. SFDC create a event. Let's say LE_ real time. Control A, Control C. Hit enter. Yes, Aura. Now we are creating the component event. Component perfect. now, in order to implement this, whatever the child component the data is entered should be passed to the parent component. That means I need an attribute. I need an attribute to hold. Aura colon attribute name equal to, let's say that ACC, and type I'm using the account. Perfect. This is done. So let me deploy this, deploy source to org. Completed. Now, next thing is that I need to create a. Okay, so first what I'll do is I'll create a parent component. In the parent component, first I'll implement the data table. First I'll implement data table. So let's go ahead and see how to create a data table in the parent component. So I'll create a parent component. Underscore P underscore. And this is LC. Control Shift P, create Aura component, give a component name, Aura. Okay. Now I have a component. Now in the parent component, what I need is, let me implement the data table, Lightning, colon data table. And the attribute is, which I have is key field equal to, it has to be unique, this key field.
ID.
Right. And then what are the other attributes? Data. And what else we have? Columns. Now this is the syntax of it. Now, in order to store, I need an attribute to hold the data. So what I'll do is I'll create a one attribute, Aura colon attribute, name equal to, we are using the accounts. So let's take the accounts, type equal to account, type equal to, I'm going to take the, because here the data table should be in an array format. That means this has to have a list. The table is storing the list values, right? Array. So the default is array. Perfect. So this is the attribute which I needed. So this attribute, I'll give it to the data. Exclamation V dot attributes. Now done. Next one, I need a columns. I need a columns which has a list of columns. Which has list of columns. Let's remove the default. Here I'll use it as a columns. Type is list. Done. Now, here I need to give the columns here. Columns equal to curly braces, exclamation V dot columns, let's say. Now, whenever we are calling this parent component, on load of it, the table has to be displayed. Table has to be displayed with the column names. The table has to be displayed with the column names on load of this parent component. So how can we implement? If we wanted to implement on load of that, on load of this parent component, we need to display the data table. How to implement that? On load of the component, I need to implement the data table. I need to show the data table.
Or a handler init method.
Or a handler init.
Method.
So we have to use aura colon handler name equal to init and value equal to, what should be the value? What should be the value? For init handler, what should be the value? It should
This.
this. And the action,
Do init.
curly braces exclamation C dot, let's use the do init. Now, in this do init, I'm going to implement a column. I'm going to implement this column, and on load of it, we need to display this table. We need to display this table. So let's go to the Visual Studio and let's go to the controller. And here do init. Now in the do init, I'll be implementing the columns. What is the column name should be? So let's say that var, I'm giving some name to here. In the object, this is my object. In the object, let's suppose I needed 3 columns to be displayed. 3 columns to be displayed. So 3 curly braces, open and close. And then within this, we have a fields called label, comma, field name, comma, type. This is common. So I need a label, field name, and the type. The first one, it should display on the table account name, and the field name should be the API name is name, and the type equal to, it's a text value. Now the second one is phone number. I'm going to display the phone, and the field API name is phone, and the type is text. Type is text. And here label is rating. Field name is, it's a rating, and the type equal to text. Now this has to be in the single quote, name, phone, field API name should be in the single quote, as well as the label name is also on the single quote. Perfect. I have a label, field name, type. Now what I'll do is, once this is done, I'm going to set these values into A columns. So component dot set v dot A columns, comma, col. That's it. Now my header names are displaying. Now my header names are displaying it. Now let me push this component. Right click. Is there any error here? Okay. So right click on this, deploy source to org. Aura handler. Aura handler, control save. Right click, deploy source. Source to org. Perfect, it's moved. Now let me go back to the developer console. Let's refresh this. Now here I'm going to use C:, the component name, Control S, click on preview. Right, on load of it, it is displaying the table. It is displaying the table. On load of it, it is displaying the table. Now I can see that this is the account name. Where I have given the account name, I have mentioned in the JavaScript, label name is account name. Backend, the field API name is name. And the next one is phone number. The label name is phone number. Right? And it is displaying the phone number. This is rating. The third one is displaying the rating. Whenever you are implementing a data table, always build this column in the JavaScript on load of the component. On load of the component, because these values doesn't change. The table column names doesn't change because you are building a table with the column names. Right, so these values doesn't change. So this always implement the column names on load of the component. Now I'm done with on load of the component. Is everybody clear on this, how to use the data table? How to use the data table, is everybody clear? Yes or no? Should I need to repeat it? Okay, how about others? Shailaja, Sibita, Sri Lakshmi, Tarak, Tejo Kumar, Ram Gopal.
Swapna.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we are done with the data table. Now I'll move on to the actual logic. So the logic is I need to implement the child component. In the child component, I need a 3 input, which is a name, phone, rating, and I'm going to take one button, save button. Save button. So let's go ahead and implement this. Now this time I'm going to use the child component. I'm going to create the child component. What is my child component name? So this is my child component name. So Control Shift P, create Aura component. And this is the child component. Yes, the folder is Aura folder. Perfect. Now let me implement the lightning card. Lightning : card. Title equal to child component. Okay, so within the card, I need three buttons, sorry, three input, lightning colon, input, label equal to account name, and value. Value, what should I need to take here? Value.
Name.
So let's use the aura. So in this case, I'm using the account object. I'm using the account object everywhere because event is referring the account. If I take a object instead of a account, right? If I take a object here, system will not understand. If I take a object here, and if I wanted to take a account name, and if I say v dot object dot name, it will not be more clear. It's not a clear. So if I say here account, if I say type equal to account, and if I am referring the name from the account object, so system will understand, okay, you are referring the name field which is already exist in the account. So default, I'm going to take the default here as object colon account. Now this is my attribute. Let's save this. No account, this is a new account. New account dot name, this is the first one. And then I need a phone number as well as the
Rating.
rating. Phone account rating. So here phone rating. Perfect. So my input is done here. Now the next thing which I need is button. So button, I'll place it in the aura set attribute.
Equal to actions.
Actions.
Actions, yes.
Lightning button.
Lightning colon button.
Lightning colon button.
Label equal to save.
Save.
On click. Curly brace exclamatory c dot save. Handle save.
Handle save. Perfect. My UI is done. In the child component, what are the UI is there? This part. We have implemented this part. This is done. Now I need to register the event from the child component. So let's go ahead and register the event.
Aura colon register event.
Aura colon register event.
Name equal to.
Let's take NACC and then type equal to C colon. What is our lightning event name?
Real time event. LE underscore real time event.
LE underscore real time event. Perfect. Register is done. Now, when I click on this button, I need to fire an event. Let's go to the controller. This is my function name or method name. What are things that I need to do here? Let's note down. The step one. Let me get the, because whatever this new account is there, first let's get this new account details. So existing, get existing account details. And step two, and we need to get the event. get event. Or we have to set anything here? Yes, there is an attribute ACC is there. So step 3, set lightning event attribute ACC. We need to set ACC equal to, what is the value that we need to set? Whatever the user has entered, right? Whatever the user has entered, where it is going to save the value, it is going to save it into the new account. This is the input field. Whatever the user is entering here, it is going to store everything into new account. So lightning attribute, lightning event attribute, what are the event attribute is there? That event attribute equal to, we are going to set the new account. Whatever the new account is there, we are going to set that. And then finally, I have to fire an event. Then once we fire the event, next step is clear out the data. Whatever user has entered, whatever the user has entered here, right? For example, here user has entered A, B, C, right? Some number here. And the rating, let's assume 1. As soon as user entered this, whenever user click on a save button, this data should shift here, and then this should be clear. The data, whatever I have entered, should be at the bottom in the table, and it should clear this information from the input field. So step 5 is clear the new account details. So these are the steps that I need to do. These are the steps I need to do. So the first one is get the existing new account data, where new ACC equal to component dot get v dot new account. Now done with the getting the information of new account. Now the next one is I need to get the event.
Dot get event.
This is the name of the event, where event equal to component dot get
Event.
done with getting the event. Now I need to set the values, set the lightning event attribute, right? Event dot set params, curly braces, ACC, right? The name is ACC, and this ACC, what are the values that our user has entered? I'm passing to the lightning attribute, lightning event attribute. I'm passing there. Done. The next one is I need to fire the event. Now, step 5, we will come later. Okay. So now this is done. Firing the event is done. Registering the event is done. Firing the event is done. Now let me push this component. Right click, deploy source to org. Okay, done perfectly. Now let's go back to the parent. In the parent, I need to handle the event. Right? So let me copy there. aura colon handler name equal to, what should be the name? NACC, and the event equal to LE underscore real time action equal to curly braces exclamation C dot handle event. Perfect. Handling the event. Let's go to the controller. Handle event. Okay. Now, while handling the event, what should we do? In the parent, while handling, what should we do?
We have to display the values. We
That
have to
means
assign the column values.
yeah, that means I need to get the values from the event. Whatever the event has, first I need to get those information. So get lightning event attribute. This is a step 1. Step 2. Once I have it,
We need to set the values, display in table.
right. So this is the parent component, accounts. Now before setting it, first get what is the accounts contains. Because I don't want to overwrite. So first get the accounts, whatever it is containing. Get the existing accounts. Step 3. Push lightning event attribute values to the account. Lightning component attribute lightning component attribute accounts. That is the third step. Now step 4, set the accounts, set the final accounts into the attribute. Now first one is step 1. I need to get the lightning event attribute where, let's say, ECC equal to event dot get para ACC, because my event is, this is ACC. So I'm getting the ACC details, and then I need to get the existing one, accounts equal to component dot get v dot accounts. So the one, whatever this has, this data has. So first get the data, and then finally, then what we need to do, we need to use this accounts. What are the existing one is there should be there, as well as push the latest one. The latest one is in the lightning event attribute, push that. And finally, component dot set v dot accounts, and whatever these final values are there, push it to the accounts. Perfect. Yeah, that's all. Handle event, getting the event, and also getting the existing accounts along with the existing one, pushing the latest one. And once we have the final data, pushing back to here. Now, let's deploy this. Deploy source to org. There is something wrong. Invalid event description. C colon. Okay. Right click. Deploy source to org. So parent is deployed. Let me check the child. Does the child is deployed or not? So let's deploy the child also. Are we calling the child component in the parent? No, right? We are not calling. So let's go ahead and call the child component. C column. This is the child component. Control S. Now deploy this source to org. Okay, it's deployed. Now let's go back to the developer console. Let's refresh. Let's check. We have a parent. Okay, let's click on preview. Okay, so this is the child component and this is the parent component table. Let's adjust the styling. So let's minimize this child component. So in order to minimize that child component, I'm going to use the styling. So first of all, let me put this child component in div. So in the div, I'll add the child component. And between this div and the lightning data table, I'll just add a breakpoint. Okay. And for this, I'll just adjust something, the class equal to, let's use the styling. So box, let's go to the CSS. In the CSS, I'll use, is this a child component or a parent?
Child component. Child.
Is this child component?
No,
It's not a child component, it's a parent component.
Parent.
So there is no space there. So I'll use width. Let's use the 600 pixel. And also margin left. Let's add the space. 350 pixel. And also I'll add the padding. 20 pixel. Let's see. Now let me push this to the deploy source to org. Perfect. So now let's refresh. No, fine. But why save button is not displaying? Why save button is not displaying on the child component?
Lightning card.
Oh, it's out. Okay. What is the reason here?
We have used our asset, but we miss it to use card.
It has to be within the card.
Card.
Yeah, within the card. Card we have set down.
Control S. Deploy source to org. Perfect. Let's refresh. Okay. So now the button is coming here. Let me add Ram Gopal phone number, some number I'm giving here, account rating warm. Click on a save. See below it is adding. Now let me add Nagamani and some number here. Let's say cold. Save. But what is happening? It is repeating the previous one. It is keep on adding here, right? So if I change something here, it's updating the existing one. Updating the existing one also. It is adding here one by one, but it is updating the existing one. That means whatever the previous one is there, if I change something, all the records are getting impacted. All the records are getting impacted. Now the first thing what I'll do is, as soon as this record is added to the table, I'll clean up these values. What are the values that I have? I'll clean up. First, I'll clean up the values. So in order to clean up the values, what we can do is in the parent component, in the child component, when we are calling this handle save, in the handle save, the step 5, what I'll do is component dot set v dot new account.
Null.
If you use null, okay, for the objects here we have a type equal to account, right? It's an account object. When we use a null to the account object for the objects or a S object, when we use it, what will happen? Deploy this to source org. Okay, so refresh. No. I'll add something here, phone number, click on rating, hot, click on save, it's added. But when I'm typing here, the properties of null cannot read the properties of null. It does not accept the null. Wherever you have a type, which is a S object, wherever you have a type, which is a S object type, whether it is a custom object or a standard object, it won't accept the null or it won't accept the blank. It doesn't. So what you have to do in order to make that null, copy this, you have a default value, right? Copy the default value, paste it here. Now, within this, what is the values that we wanted to make it? Now, inside this, I have name is the one should be blank, and then we have phone number should be blank, and then we have a rating should be blank. I'm using the S object type. Sorry, what is this? Why we have taken the S object there? It should be S object type. S object type. In the S object type, this has to be in the single quote. Account. Yes, for this S object type account, we are using the name, phone, rating. For this one, I wanted to make the value as a null. I wanted to make the value as null. Perfect. So let's click on save. Now, C component, right click, deploy source to org. Okay. Now let's go back to the refresh Aura. Application, let's refresh. Let me add something here. Let's add Archana. Some number here and the rating warm. Click on the save. After clicking on the save button, it's clearing of the data. Next one, Tejo Kumar and some number, rating warm or a cold. Click on save. Now what is happening? It's not updating the existing one. Now what was the problem? It was updating the existing one. What was the issue? What was the issue when we added the first time? If I add new number here, and if I enter some details here, when we click on a save, it was updating the existing record here. What was the issue? Anybody?
Maybe
Only one
event is holding previous value also.
Updated. It is overriding the previous values.
Why it is overriding the previous values?
We did not clear.
No, the problem is here we have used the S object. We have used the S object. If you use here S object, now I'll comment out that. Let me comment out this. No. Okay, as you are saying that we have not cleared previously. So I'll comment this. Let's push this. Deploy source to org. Okay. Now refresh. Now let me add Sri Lakshmi, a number. Warm. Click on save. Now I'll add Sibita and some number. Let's say warm. What is happening? It is
It is
updating the previous one. Yeah. So yeah. I was thinking because it was not having the default here S object type was not there. It was S object. So we have not cleared the value. So that's the reason previous one also it is getting updated. Okay, any questions on this? Any questions? Now, what is happening here? First, we have implemented the data table. First, we implemented the data table. For this data table, we have built the column. We have built the column. Now, the next step which we have done is we have implemented the child component, with the lightning colon input name, phone, rating, and the button which I have used it. Now, once this is done, UI is done, on click of the save button, what I am doing it, I'm firing the event. While firing the event, I'm passing these values, the name, phone number, rating, these values I'm passing to the lightning event. For the lightning event, how I'm passing it, by using the type equal to account. That means this account is going to hold the array. The complete record, it is going to hold it. So this complete record I'm passing here. Now in the parent component, we are doing the register. When I do the register, I'm sending that information to the table, and the table is storing the information here. Table is storing the information there. Now, if you observe, it is also showing the checkboxes. So it has checkboxes in the. Now here, if you see, it is showing the checkboxes. So which is by default. I have not mentioned anything. This is coming by default. By default, it is showing it. If I select that, all of them is going to select it. All of them is going to be selected. Now, if you do not want this checkbox, you can hide it. You can hide it. How you are going to hide it? We have the component library. In the library, you can
Yes,
see
hide.
hide checkbox is option is there. So hide checkbox column. If you specify hide checkbox column, then it is going to be, where is it? Parent component. Now let's say hide checkbox column equal to, it's a Boolean value. Let's say true. Let's save it. Clear this, right click, deploy this source to odd. Okay. So associated with an element, Lightning data table. Let me put this into the string. Let's save, right click, deploy this to. Okay, it's done. Now let's refresh this. Now the checkbox is gone. There is no checkbox here. Okay. So this is the homework. Take the object position here. We have an object called position. There is an object called position. In the position, you might be having a position name. And if you do not have an email, go ahead and create an email field in the object. In the object, create a field email. In the object, create a field address. And here the type, the data type, take it as a text for now. Data type, take it as a text. So these two fields should be created within the object. Then create a parent component. In that parent component, create the data table. And then create a child component. In the child component, in order to capture this value, you need to use v dot position __ c dot. For the email, you have to create an email field. So email __ c. So by using this, whatever the user is entering here, you can store it into this, and this value should be passed to the table. So this is the assignment. Okay, what are the Lightning data table main features? What are the Lightning data table main features?
Displaying and formatting of columns, inline editing, header level, row level actions, besides job columns, text wrappings, and row columns.
Right. So this we will see later, application event. So that's all for today. So today we have seen the component event, use case, real-time scenario, data table. These all we have seen today. Application event, we will see next class.